Well, hello there, dear. It's so nice to have a little company this morning. My name is Grace, and I'm 104 years old. Now, whenever people hear that number, they usually look at me for a second, and then they look at my eyes. Some even wave their hand in front of my face just to see if I can follow it. I always tell them, yes, I can still see you. Not as perfectly as I did when I was 20, of course. Growing older changes all of us. But I'm still able to read my favorite books, sew a loose button back onto my sweater, and watch the birds that visit my little garden every morning. And for that, I feel very grateful. People often ask me the same question. Grace, what's your secret? Oh, if only life were that simple. There isn't one secret. There isn't one magical food, and there certainly isn't one pill that can turn the clock backward. What I do have is a lifetime of small habits. One of those habits begins every single morning before I do anything else. Breakfast. Not a fancy breakfast, not an expensive one. Just simple foods I've been eating for longer than most people have been alive. Looking back now, I think those foods have done more for me than I ever realized. They've helped me care for my body, and I believe they've also supported my eyes over the years. Now, I'm not a doctor. Everything I share today comes from my own life and what I've learned along the way. If you have any health concerns or eye conditions, it's always wise to speak with your healthcare provider. But if you're like many people my age, and you've noticed that reading has become harder, or faces seem a little blurrier, or driving at night isn't what it used to be, perhaps some of these simple foods are worth adding to your morning table, and please stay with me until the end. The fifth food is the one my grandchildren used to complain about the most. Now, they're the ones eating it every morning. So let me tell you about the very first food that has been on my breakfast table for as long as I can remember. The very first food is one I've eaten for as long as I can remember. An egg. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Grace, that's it? Just an egg? Yes, dear, just an egg. Sometimes the simplest things are the ones we overlook. When I was a little girl, we didn't have shelves full of vitamins or health drinks. We ate what we had. My mother would wake up before the sun, and the smell of breakfast would drift through the house. Most mornings there would be a boiled egg waiting for each of us. Back then, none of us were talking about nutrients or antioxidants. We simply called it breakfast. Years later, I learned that eggs contain nutrients like lutein and zeaxanthin. Those are two natural compounds that help support the health of your eyes. Eggs also provide vitamin A, which plays an important role in helping your eyes function properly. Of course, an egg isn't magic. One food alone can't stop the aging process. But when it's part of a balanced diet, it can certainly contribute to overall eye health. These days, I usually enjoy one boiled egg with a slice of whole grain toast and a few slices of tomato. It's simple, filling, and it gives me a pleasant start to the day. I've noticed something over the years. Many people skip breakfast because they're in a hurry, or they say they're just not hungry in the morning. I understand, but after living for more than a century, I've learned that your body appreciates routine. Giving it wholesome food at the beginning of the day often sets the tone for everything that follows. And let me tell you something else. Please don't be fooled into thinking that expensive always means better. I've seen people spend hundreds of dollars on supplements while ignoring the healthy foods already sitting in their refrigerator. Sometimes the answer has been there all along. Now, the second food wasn't something I enjoyed as a child. In fact, I used to push it around my plate and hope my mother wouldn't notice. She always noticed, and I'm very glad she did. Let's talk about that next. Now, this next one and I, well, we weren't exactly friends when I was young. Spinach. Oh, how I disliked it. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, moving those green leaves around with my fork, hoping my mother would think I'd already eaten them. She never fell for it. She'd simply smile and say, "Grace, your body will thank you one day." At the time, I thought she was just trying to make me finish my vegetables. But now, more than 90 years later, I think she was right. Dark leafy greens like spinach are packed with nutrients that our eyes appreciate. They're especially rich in lutein and zeaxanthin, the same natural compounds we talked about a moment ago. Many experts believe these nutrients help support the part of the eye responsible for sharp, central vision. They're also a good source of vitamin C and several other nutrients that contribute to overall health. Now, I don't eat a huge bowl of spinach every morning. That wouldn't make me very happy. Instead, I keep it simple. Sometimes I add a handful of fresh spinach to an omelet. Other mornings, I sauté a few leaves with a little olive oil and enjoy them alongside my breakfast. If I have tomatoes on hand, I'll add those too. They make the meal colorful, and somehow everything tastes a little better. You know, one lesson I've learned over the years is that healthy eating doesn't have to be complicated. People often believe they need exotic ingredients or expensive powders shipped from halfway around the world. But the foods that have stayed with me for more than a century are the ordinary ones, the ones our parents and grandparents cooked without giving them fancy names. Simple meals, fresh ingredients, nothing wasted. And I think that's a habit worth bringing back. Now, the third food is one that wasn't part of my childhood at all. In fact, I didn't begin eating it regularly until much later in life. But once I did, it quickly became one of my favorite parts of breakfast. And every time I see its beautiful deep blue color, it reminds me that nature has its own quiet way of taking care of us. Let's talk about that next. Now, this next food came into my life much later. When I was growing up, blueberries weren't something we had very often. If we wanted fruit, we'd eat whatever was in season, nothing more, nothing less. It wasn't until I was in my 60s that a neighbor invited me over for breakfast. She placed a little bowl of fresh blueberries on the table beside some oatmeal. I looked at them and thought, well, those are tiny. I didn't expect much. But after one bite, I was surprised by how sweet they were. Since then, whenever they're in season, they've found a place on my breakfast table. Blueberries are rich in antioxidants, including natural plant compounds called anthocyanins. These are what give the berries their beautiful deep blue color. Researchers have been studying these compounds for years because they may help protect the body's cells from everyday wear and tear caused by oxidative stress. That's good news not just for your eyes, but for your overall health as well. Now, that doesn't mean eating a handful of blueberries will suddenly make blurry vision disappear. I wish life worked that way. But adding colorful fruits to your diet is one simple step that can support healthy aging. Most mornings, I sprinkle a small handful over my oatmeal or plain yogurt. If blueberries aren't available, I'll use whatever fresh berries I can find. The important thing isn't chasing perfection. It's building little habits you can actually keep. You know, one thing I've noticed over the years is that people often wait for a health scare before they start taking care of themselves. They'll say, "I'll eat better next month," or "I'll start after the holidays." I used to hear those same promises from friends many years ago. Some of them kept waiting. Life has a funny way of reminding us that tomorrow isn't always guaranteed. That's why I believe in doing the little things today. Not because they're dramatic, but because they add up. One healthy breakfast, one short walk, one good night's sleep, one glass of water, day after day, year after year. That's how habits become a lifetime. Now, the fourth food is one I never truly appreciated until I became older. It's small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, but don't let its size fool you. Inside that little shell is something I now consider one of nature's finest gifts. Let's take a look at it together. The fourth food is something I never paid much attention to when I was young: a handful of walnuts. To be honest, I used to think they were only for baking cakes or adding to holiday desserts. It wasn't until many years later that I started keeping a little glass jar of walnuts on my kitchen counter. Now, I hardly let a morning go by without reaching for a few. No, I don't eat the whole jar, just a small handful. That's all I need. Walnuts are a wonderful source of healthy fats, especially omega-3 fatty acids that come from plants. They also provide vitamin E and other nutrients that help support the body's cells. Our eyes, just like our hearts and brains, benefit from good nutrition over a lifetime. That's something I didn't fully understand when I was younger. I do now. One thing I've learned after living for more than 100 years is that we often underestimate the little things. People search for the newest miracle product, the newest trend, the newest promise. Meanwhile, nature has quietly been providing wholesome foods all along. A simple egg, fresh greens, a handful of berries, and now just a few walnuts. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, just honest food. I usually chop them into my oatmeal or yogurt. Sometimes I simply enjoy them alongside my morning tea. They're satisfying, and they help keep me from reaching for sweet pastries before lunchtime. Now, I won't pretend that walnuts alone are the reason I've made it to 104. If only it were that easy. Living a long life is a puzzle with many pieces. Good food, enough rest, a little movement every day, staying curious, laughing often, keeping people you love close. I believe all of those things matter. You know, when my grandchildren come to visit, they sometimes laugh because my breakfast looks almost the same every morning. One of them once asked, "Grandma, don't you ever get bored?" I told him, "My dear, I'd rather be grateful than bored." There's comfort in simple routines, especially the ones that have cared for you for many years. Now, we've arrived at the fifth and final food. It's probably the one people ask me about the most. In fact, many are surprised when I tell them I didn't always enjoy eating it, but today, I wouldn't want to start my morning without it. Let's finish breakfast together. Now we've come to the last food. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you. This one is very special to me, not because it's expensive, not because it's fashionable, but because it taught me that it's never too late to change an old habit. When I was younger, I wasn't much of a fish lover. If my mother served fish for dinner, I'd quietly hope there was enough bread on the table to fill my stomach instead. I know, I wasn't always the well-behaved little girl I pretend to have been. As I grew older, though, I started learning more about the foods that nourish our bodies. That's when I began eating salmon more often. Not every single day, of course. A few times a week was enough for me. And on mornings when I had a small piece of leftover baked salmon from the night before, I'd enjoy it with a slice of whole grain toast and a few slices of avocado or tomato. It became one of my favorite breakfasts. Salmon is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, nutrients that are important for many parts of the body, including the eyes. Research suggests that getting enough omega-3s as part of a balanced diet may help support eye health and overall well-being. Now, if salmon isn't something you enjoy, or it's difficult to find where you live, don't worry. Other fish, like sardines, trout, or mackerel, can also provide omega-3 fats. The goal isn't to eat one perfect food. The goal is to give your body a variety of nourishing choices over time. You know, when you've lived as long as I have, you begin to notice something. Most people spend their lives searching for shortcuts, the fastest diet, the newest pill, the miracle cure. But our bodies don't work that way. They quietly respond to what we do day after day. A wholesome breakfast, a walk around the neighborhood, a good night's sleep, a laugh with someone you love. Those things may seem ordinary, but ordinary habits, repeated for many years, can shape an extraordinary life. I often sit here in my garden and watch the sunrise. The colors aren't quite as bright as they were when I was 20. That's simply part of growing older. But I can still see the roses blooming beside the fence. I can still watch the birds splash in the little fountain. I can still recognize the smiling faces of my grandchildren when they come running toward me. Those are gifts I'll never take for granted. And if caring for my body with simple, wholesome foods has helped me enjoy those moments a little longer, then every healthy breakfast has been worth it. Well, dear, those are the 5 foods that have stayed with me through most of my life. An egg, leafy greens like spinach, blueberries, a handful of walnuts, and salmon. None of them are miracle foods. None of them can promise perfect eyesight. But together, as part of a balanced lifestyle, they can help support your health and your eyes over the years. If there's one thing I'd like you to remember after our little chat today, it's this. Don't wait for tomorrow to start taking care of yourself. Small choices matter. One healthy meal, one glass of water, one short walk, one good habit. That's how a lifetime is built. I'd love to hear from you. Is there a breakfast food you've been enjoying for years? Or perhaps one your parents or grandparents always insisted you eat? Share it in the comments below. I truly enjoy reading your stories. And if you found a little comfort or inspiration in our time together today, I'd be honored if you joined me again for another morning conversation. Until then, take good care of yourself, dear. And remember, growing older is a privilege. Let's do it as gracefully and as healthfully as we can.